Hi, I'm Amy and this is A Star Reads, and today I'm going to do my March wrap-up for the 10th time or something like that, because I've tried doing it for the last 2 days and it's not working out. It's just not working out. I'm in my second week of school and I forget how much energy it takes to fuel this thing, and it's so exhausted all the time. So between that and working out in the field where I'm physically exhausted because I feel like I've been run over by a truck multiple times, please bear with me because it's gonna take me a little while to get into the hang of being back in school full time and trying to figure out how to make all that work with booktube, because I love doing booktube and I want to make sure I have time for this, but I am barely treading water at the moment. This is what's happening. So no makeup, nothing, I'm not even trying today. I'm trying to get through this. That's what I'm trying to do. I actually have started the month out pretty well as far as reading goes. I'm reading more. Of course, about 75% of the stuff that I'm reading is for school, but I also feel like my slump is gone and I'm able to read a little bit more right now, which feels fantastic. It feels good because in March I struggled to read. I read 8 books, so that's not horrible, but I didn't get as much read as I wanted to. I definitely did not get a lot of books on my TBR finished, but you know, I read some decent books. I gave some pretty good ratings. So I will say it was a win. I'm gonna take it for what it is, and I'm ready for April. I'm ready to read. Not necessarily sure I'm ready to stay on top of my videos. So just be patient with me. I will make this work. I will figure it all out. And hopefully I will stay awake to get things accomplished, because that's part of the problem right now. I'm just, every time I open a book or start studying, I'm like, fall asleep because I'm so tired. So because I've been struggling so much to do this wrap up for the last couple of days, I'm going to throw caution to the wind. I'm gonna do something different this month. I'm gonna shake it up. And I have to thank Jeremy Phew, who is this wonderful booktuber who's very prolific and has these fantastic wrap-up videos where he does a battle of the books. And I love it. And I think he got inspired by Penelope from Paperback Cat. I will link Jeremy's channel as well as Penelope's channel down below so you can check out their battle of books. It's basically brackets where you're looking at all the books that you read and trying to get down to the #1 book that you love the most for the month. And because all the books that I'm going to be talking about in this video, I have actually gone into much more depth in other videos. I've talked about every single one of these books in another video. And the nonfiction review video is not going to be out for another couple of days, but once that comes out, that'll also talk about the 3 nonfiction books that I read this month in March as well. So because I've already talked about these books, I was thinking, let's do a battle of the books. Let's break these down and see which one I loved the most of all the books I read this month. So I'm starting out with 4 brackets. The first bracket is going to be YA contemporary. The second bracket is going to be fantasy. The third bracket is going to be nonfiction. And the fourth bracket is this weird other historical adventure category that I kind of mushed 2 books into. So let's get started with our first bracket. The first bracket for YA contemporary, I have 2 books. The first one is A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. And this is a cute little YA contemporary romance, which is battling against a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares by Crystal Sutherland. You think it's cute in the beginning, but it's actually a very hard-hitting emotional book. Those are my 2 beginners. The first one, A Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow, is about this young woman named Lila who's just graduated from high school and she's slated to take over the family business. She's a baker and her family owns a bakery, a Cuban bakery. And unfortunately, some tragic things happen in her life and she's not recovering very well from these things that happen. So her family actually sends her away to England to kind of try and recover. She has family members there who she's going to be staying with. And she's pissed because she's like, I don't need to be sent away. I need to just be at home and have time to recover. She gets sent away, and of course she meets someone named Orion, and hopefully healing and romance come from it. And so it was a really cute book. I enjoyed it. It was very heartwarming, and it was a little obvious YA contemporary trope sort of book. However, what I really liked about it were the relationships that were formed and how the main characters handled these relationships, like how they interacted with each other, how they communicated. I felt like it was really mature for a YA book, and in fact, I thought it was really mature for, there was a lot of communication in this that I felt a lot of people don't do very well. So I really appreciated that look at how a healthy relationship is formed. And then there's a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares, which started out really fun and quirky. And this is a book about a girl named Esther who has this very unique family, and they have a lot of fears. They let these fears run their life in a lot of ways. And the reason that they do is because her grandfather at one point met death. Death told him that he was going to die in a certain way. And so that became one of his biggest fears. And so everybody kind of has this fear that just is all consuming. And Esther doesn't really know what her biggest fear is yet, but she also avoids doing things in life because she's afraid of finding out what that fear will be and then dying due to that fear. So she has this list of all the possibilities that she could be afraid of, and she avoids those things. She meets this guy named Jonah, who I just love Jonah. And Jonah decides to help her confront death. So this book was fantastic. It starts out more light. It goes into more serious conversations later on. There are conversations about severe depression, there's conversations around suicide, and there is self-harm and things like that in this book. So there are a lot of trigger warnings. And if you have a lot of fears, I mean, this talks about so many different types of fears. So if these are things that might trigger you, please be aware that there are a lot of things going on in this book that could be triggering. I loved this book, and I loved how deep it got towards the end. And because of that, a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares is going to take the round. It's the winner here, because it really was an exceptional book. I really liked The Cuban Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow. I really did, but a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares surprised me. It really, really surprised me. And it made me cry. It made me feel very strong feelings, and I really appreciated that about the book. All right, in our next bracket, we have a YA fantasy, Children of Virtue and Vengeance by Tomi Adeyemi, versus Robin Hobb's Royal Assassin. So these are both books that are not first in the series, so I'm not going to go into too much depth about them. I liked them for different reasons. Children of Virtue and Vengeance is one of those books that a lot of people said they didn't like, and I get that they didn't like it, but I didn't agree. The biggest thing I saw was that people didn't like the way the characters behaved. I think that a big intention behind Tomi Adeyemi's goal of writing this series was that she was really taking inspiration from how the Black Lives Matter movement has been handled in the US. I think if you look at it from a deeper perspective and you take the inspiration that Tomi Adeyemi had, the behavior of the characters in this book were completely understandable. And the direction of the book, like, it all made sense to me. It made sense to me. Could the book have been shorter? Yes. I feel like the ending was a little drawn out, and I would have liked to have wrapped up a little bit quicker. And the other thing is that it's very dramatic. It's a YA. If that YA drama and angst bothers you, you might not like it as much. But I loved it. I really liked The Children of Virtue and Vengeance. So then the other book is Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb. And this one, I kind of think for a good portion of the book, maybe 2/3 of the book, I was feeling sort of the same I felt with Assassin's Apprentice, which was great. I loved the book, but it wasn't a 5-star read for me at first. And then the middle and towards the end, this book shot off. Like, it was so good. And that last part of this book, of Royal Assassin, I was sobbing. I was crying. It was so impactful. So good. So good. Robin Hobb knows how to tell a story. In this case, Royal Assassin is going to have to win, just because, although I loved both books, Royal Assassin really pulled it home for me, and it was just such an enjoyable read. Maybe not necessarily the happiest of reads, but neither was Children of Virtue and Vengeance. There was a lot going on in both of these stories. All right, in bracket 3, we've got Hood Feminism by Mickey Kendall going up against Einstein's Cosmos by Michio Kaku. And these are very different books, so I know it would seem kind of strange to be pitting these against each other. However, I'm going based off my overall enjoyment of these books and what I really felt about my reading experience. So Hood Feminism is basically a discussion about modern day feminism and how it's not recognizing all the women within the US. And also the causes that modern day feminism is championing aren't necessarily causes that are inclusive of the general population. And we need to look at what causes need to be a focus of the feminist movement. And Einstein's Cosmos is basically a biography of Einstein's life and talking about not only his work and his progress in physics, but looking at mechanics and relativity, of course, because he brought so much to relativity. And then finally looking at quantum physics and some of the more abstract forms of physics, which I thought was really interesting. And it's really just a look at why Einstein was so successful as a physicist. So both books brought really great things to the fight, and I feel like hood feminism is unique in that there's not a lot of books that offer this intersectional perspective to feminism. And so I really appreciated how vocal this book was as to the issues, the problems, the things that are wrong within the feminist movement. My difficulty with this book is that I didn't enjoy the writing style so much. It really was more of a technical issue for me. There were a lot of things in this that I thought could have been improved upon as far as delivery. And I will explain a lot about that a lot more in my nonfiction review. And so please be kind in the comments, because my issues with hood feminism were not the content at all. It was more how the delivery was and the accessibility for certain audiences. So that being said, I think hood feminism is still a book that everybody should read. And I really look forward to reading more books on this subject. And I'll actually probably be doing a reread of hood feminism as well. As far as Einstein's Cosmos go, it was the book that reminded me why I love popular science nonfiction so much. And I thought that Michio Kaku did an amazing job breaking down really, really complex ideas and making them very palatable to the reader. It helps if you have some interest in physics, but anybody could read this and understand something about superstring theory. I love how comprehensive Kaku's take on Einstein was, and I thought, considering it was such a short book, it was beautiful. It was just absolutely beautiful, which is why I'm giving this round to Einstein's Cosmos. All right, and for that fourth bracket, we have other historical adventure type books. This is actually battle of the fiction versus nonfiction, because at the beginning of the month I read Erebus by Michael Palin, which is a story about the Erebus and the Terror and the adventures they went on to Antarctica, as well as trying to find the Northwest Passage from the Atlantic to the Pacific up in the Arctic region. This is the story of this ship and the people that piloted the ship and the people that were on these journeys. And so it's definitely very historical and adventurous. And that's going up against The Vines by Shelley Nolden, which is an e-arc that I read. It's sort of adventurous as well, because there's a character named Finn who goes to this island, North Brother Island in New York City. And it's this island that the early 1900s, they would send people who had contagious diseases like typhus and tuberculosis and smallpox. They would send people to this island so that they would not infect the rest of New York City. There were a lot of questionable practices by the doctors. And so Finn takes a boat and he travels to this little island to kind of try and understand how his family legacy actually fits in with this island. And while he's on this island, he meets this woman named Cora. Cora has some secrets that we're going to learn through this process of looking at Cora's past and trying to figure out more about Finn's family legacy. Okay, so this one's kind of tricky because Erebus did a great job describing the adventure down to Antarctica, but didn't do necessarily as great of a job in the beginning of the book. And then as far as Vines go, it was some interesting concepts, and I thought the author was being very creative, but there were some problems technically with her writing style. She's a new author, you know, so she's trying to find her way. And I think because I enjoyed the experience of reading Erebus so much more, and I love learning the history, that one won out because Vines to me suffered a lot from the writing style. So in this round, Erebus is definitely the winner. All right, so now we're on to round two. And round two, in the first bracket, we've got semi-definitive list of worst nightmares going up against Royal Assassin, which seems kind of a strange pairing because they're so completely different. Royal Assassin brought us adventure and gosh, so much. I mean, both of these books make you cry. They both make you cry. Royal Assassin has so many poor Fitz. He's always facing these really horrible situations. But then in the semi-definitive list of worst nightmares, we get really deep into looking at depression, looking at suicidal thoughts, looking at really hard situations that these young people in the story have to deal with. Great books, such great books. And I think I think you're gonna be surprised by this one because I actually have to give this round to a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares. I know, and please don't come at me, my Robin Hobb fans, because I do love Royal Assassin. I do. There was something so unique about semi-definitive list of worst nightmares. It was just so unique. She blew my mind. The author blew my mind in the way she was able to get creative. It was quirky and strange, and some people may not like that about it, but I really liked it. I loved the character building in here. I loved the relationships between the characters. There were so many elements to this book that I just appreciated. And so, a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares is moving on to the next round. All right, so in our second bracket, we have Einstein's Cosmos up against Erebus. Now we're back to nonfiction versus nonfiction, and like I said, Erebus was great because there was fantastic adventures. It was an interesting section of history. But Einstein's Cosmos, I cannot say enough good about this book. I loved it so much. I love Michio Kaku's writing style. It was so accessible. And learning about Einstein, I mean, for a science buff, it doesn't get much better than this. So Einstein's Cosmos is the winner of this round. All right, round 3, last round. Here we are. We're at the finalists, and we're going to see who's going to win. Is it going to be a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares, or will it be Einstein's Cosmos? Okay, so as I've been saying, a semi-definitive list of worst nightmares surprised me. The emotions involved, the concepts that were brought up. A lot of people who commented on this book said that they were afraid it was going to be a little disrespectful when they first started reading the book, but once they started getting into it and really understanding what the author was trying to do, they really appreciated it. And that's how I felt. That's when, you know, you start getting to that more deeper side and the darker side of the story is when you really get to the meat of it. And the fun bit in the beginning is a great way to set it up. But what really mattered was the conversation around depression, around fears, around much deeper and darker emotion, and I loved it. However, Einstein's Cosmos is the book that pulled me out of my slump. Einstein's Cosmos was beautifully written. I cannot wait to read all of Michio Kaku's other writing because I just think he is incredible. I mean, he's a physicist who actually knows how to explain physics in a way that I feel is better than any other physicist I've learned from, and other books that I have read. Absolutely one of the best biographies I've read and one of the best discussions I've ever read on physics, especially the more complex forms of physics. So I can't wait to read more of his books. Einstein's Cosmos is the clear winner for me. This was my favorite book of the whole month, and I will sing it from the rooftops. It's a fantastic book, and if you have any interest in physics or learning about Einstein a little bit more, I think you should check it out. So, what do you guys think of my bracket? Did you like this way of doing the wrap-up? I'm not sure that I will continue doing it this way. I think I just wanted to give myself a little change this month. But if you enjoyed it, let me know in the comment section down below. And also let me know if you agreed with me. If you didn't, you probably won't agree with me on hood feminism, and that's okay. And I will absolutely go into way more detail about my feelings about hood feminism in my nonfiction review, so please stay tuned for that. And like I said, be kind. My feelings are really more technical as far as why it wasn't as successful of a book for me. So that's it. If you enjoyed this, give me a thumbs up, and please subscribe if you're interested in seeing more of my content. And just know that April is going to be a tough month for me, but I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.